We're gonna put one here, one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to the regular council meeting for Tuesday, June 27th. It's currently 7 o'clock. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the village of Anmore. We'd like to open our meeting by recognizing the many indigenous peoples of our area, including the following First Nations with communities that are located in the region that we now know as Metro Vancouver: Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam. And further, we would like to honor the important place in history occupied by the many territorial keepers of these lands and waters around us since time immemorial. I call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. The recommendation would read
that the agenda be approved as circulated.
someone to move that. Move seconded. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Public input. Public is permitted to provide comments to council on the items shown on the meeting agenda. A 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Anybody wanting to come forward? Okay, we'll now move on. We have delegations. So we have the Hal Weinberg Scholarship presentation. We have Jaden Hickey and Catalina Hickey. Did I get it right? Yeah. Are both in attendance, and Gabriel Galley, who is unable to attend. But we have both of these certificates, and we would love to get a picture with council with the two of you. And a big congratulations. Yeah. So, thank you. So where would be a good place to get a picture to?
Here.
Right over here, okay. So, yes, Catalina, yes. And thank you. Come on over, where are we going? We'll just stand, we'll be in the back, but if you want to just be in your front row and,
Yeah.
Sure? Yes.
Or uniform.
There we go.
Over there's a sign.
Move over.
Okay, well, that's good. I'll do one this way.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you, and congratulations. Yeah. And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. That's your other role. That's the real prize. You're more than welcome to. We love having people participate. We totally understand. Yeah.
Run as fast as you can.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It was a quick, give them back!
Congratulations, and amazing work on both of you. It was, thank you. Okay, that was good. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting held on June the 6th, 2023. The recommendation would read
That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on June 6, 2023 be adopted as circulated.
sounds good. Those moved. Ready to second them? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Any business arising from those minutes? Okay, we'll now move on to, we have a consent agenda. Anybody wanting to pull anything from the consent agenda? There's only 3 things.
C, please.
C? Okay, so can I get someone to move the consent agenda, which encompasses 7A and 7B? Move. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. I'll now move on to item 7C, letter dated June 22nd, 2023 from School District number 43 regarding 2023 eligible school site proposal resolution. Move on to Councillor Richardson.
So, most of it's a question of curiosity. So, if I read the letter, council has an obligation within 60 days to respond. If you don't respond, and then it's done. This is for information only. Don't we have a responsibility in the future to do something? And 2, if I'm looking at the numbers, based on what Anna was talking about, and before council with respect to development, it seems the numbers are low, forecasting 10 years out. And I understand that it may never happen, things might change, but that's true of the 21 houses per year, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it should accurately reflect what Anna was thinking about rather than just be this. So I would recommend that we review the numbers and then respond back at some future date in the 60 days and say, these are what I think our numbers are now.
Okay, it's interesting that you bring this up, because we brought this up on several occasions over the last 15 or 16 years. So this is a charge, a provincial charge of legislation for school site acquisitions. And it is, the school board has put these numbers together. It's strictly their forecast. It's nothing to do with our forecast. And those will change. Port Moody, I guess it was last year, actually tried to refute this, and they actually, the province had to step in and or they were going to cut other funding to them if they didn't accept this application. So it is something that the school district puts together. They initially in Anmore had actually suggested another site, and we argued, well, we don't have another site, or we don't need it, and sure enough, so.
Thank you, through the chair. So I can add to that, in terms of the response, if there's no response, it's deemed accepted, so there is not a requirement for response, so that's why it's under the consent agenda. And Mr. Boyd did let me know that he and Ms. Halliwell did meet with the school district regarding just that, the future numbers, late last year. So that meeting and discussion had already taken place, but of course, if you would like to send any comments or anything over to the school district, staff is happy to take that direction.
Yeah, as I said, we have done this once before, because again, this is different from the DCCs that we collect when every lot was created, which is about $6,000 total price is about $10,000, but a portion of that is for the school site acquisition. So this is something different that they use for acquiring land, and it does talk in the fact that they need $190-something million as proposal. So this is just sort of it goes out to all the different municipalities. And I know last year Port Moody kind of was like, no, we don't want to pay this, and they were quickly directed that they had to pay it. So anyway, let's do I have someone to, the recommendation is just to receive it?
That's correct, that the letter dated June 22nd be received for information.
Okay, do I have someone to move, second receipt? Any further discussion? Councilor.
Yeah, I would just add, if we change our OCP, we haven't done that yet, we haven't done anything yet, then this report looks different the next year. 100%, right? Okay.
Call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. It was a really good point, Councilor Richardson, and one we've argued all along for quite some time as to the forecasting numbers, but again, it's the whole school district. And you may want to, if you want to find out what happened, Port Moody has a whole discussion paper on that as well. Okay, we move on to legislative reports. 2022 annual report presentation. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. So we're required to publish an annual report each year and have it considered by council before June 30th. The annual report has been available for public inspection at the village office and on our website for the last 2 weeks. We have not received any comments or questions. So the annual report is before you for approval, and the recommendation reads that the draft 2022 annual report as attached to the agenda be approved.
Can I get someone to move that report? Move. Seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Berger.
Maybe I want to make a comment. I think the report was great. Very professional, and you know, it's been on council for a long time, and there's a bunch of things I wanted to do. I mean, the rest of us wanted to get some things done. And I'm just so happy with the state of this village and where we are. And you know, when I read the report, you start to realize we're a well-run organization, you know. And I'm starting to understand why we're getting funding. I think we're starting to be noticed, and I think we're an example for all communities. So, you know, good job to staff. Very impressive.
On that, I would also comment that it is not, it happens quite frequently where I'm getting calls from other municipalities of similar size and asking how we did what we did. And this report truly reflects an amazing, and I believe that we've had an amazing council over the last few years, and we've also had amazing staff, which really set us up, amazing finance committee, because nothing gets done if we don't have the finances to do it. And That was one of our goals when I first got on council over 15 years ago. So it is not uncommon, and I can, neighboring municipalities, Lions Bay, Bowen Island, Belcarra, Harrison Hot Springs. There are some challenges out there, big challenges, and people, I'm surprised that we don't get more people coming to these meetings, being thankful of the job that we're doing and how the current condition of the village. But I guess maybe that's indicative by when we look out, there's nobody in the audience. So maybe that's true. Maybe that's the answer. So.
Sorry for calling you always.
You guys are very Anyway, Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, just to comment on that line, and this is not a reflection of any other community. If you think about how the province and the feds distribute grants, it's often not in correlation to need. We have needed the money desperately for 20 years and couldn't get anything. I think, though, when they think about investing in a community or a municipality, if they see that the municipality will do the right things with the capital, I think it gives them confidence to provide those levels of funding. And I think, honestly, I think that's a contributor to why we've been getting things in the last few years after a drought of 20 or 30 years.
Good. Okay, with no further comments, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carrie Nancy. Sorry, could you say?
No, I was putting my head up.
Okay, Carrie Nancy, and thank you for putting staff and putting it together. It was a really great report. Okay, now we'll move on to the management report and statement of financial information. Ms. Martin.
Oh, no, I did not bother from the list. Pursuant to the Financial Information Act, the statement of financial information is presented to council for approval. If there are any questions, I'm welcoming.
Can you read out the recommendation?
That the management report and statement of financial information as attached be approved.
Can I get someone to move that recommendation? Move. Second, I'll open up for discussion. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Councillor Richardson.
I was surprised by the number on the credit card. So, just out of curiosity, what, credit cards all have feedback, money, cash, miles, whatever that would be. Does Anmore get those things, or where does it go?
So it goes back as other revenue into the municipality.
Okay, thank you. Good. Any other questions? See none? Oh, sorry, Councillor Warner.
Just nipping this in the bud, on page 103, there's some amounts here for KD Electrical Consultants, KD Mechanical Consultants. Well, I work for a company called KD Engineering. I have for 35 years, and I've been recently made a minor partner. Nothing to do with any of these guys in the village hall. I just want to make that clear. Good word. That's out there. I'm in a conflict of interest. Two separate companies.
Okay, sure. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Martin. We'll now move on to council committee recommendations. Okay. Okay, so we have these council committee reports, recommendations. I would actually like to take these back and work on them with that. I'm a firm believer, I read through some of the things, and there was concerns about enrollment, there was concerns about amount of meetings, there were concerns about staffing. I think some of those things were a bit of a hangover in regards from the COVID period where we weren't meeting, and also the fact that there wasn't a lot going on in the village to warrant some of these meetings. We did have a couple of APC meetings because they were warranted due to the fact of infill, because they were being vetted through the infill. But with some of these things, I think it's important that we keep some consistency and some continuity with our existing committees. And I'll talk to, I'll go have conversations with Ms. Elric and Ms. Schnell in regards to the fact that we will have some things coming forward, which I think is going to really, really put some demands on the committees in regards to parks and recreation, in regards to environment, in regards to community culture, and also adding somewhere incorporating youth as well as public safety. So I'm just wondering if we could just table this until the next meeting, and then we can have a discussion and add to it. Ms. Elric?
Thank you. So I guess staff would be seeking direction on what additional information that you would like brought back to council to inform that discussion. Certainly in terms of the requirements to meet the Accessible British Columbia Act that comes into effect in December, so we will not be compliant with legislation if we do not make that update or change in some way to the structure of our committees. And we have been, as you know, unsuccessful in recruiting for these committees as well as APC, so we would also want direction on if there's no changes to be made on whether council would like staff to attempt to recruit on the basis of the current structure.
Yeah, I think recruiting will not be an issue with what's facing the village in this, and I think as well the fact that we're going to have a brand new meeting space in a couple of months is going to be paramount as well, because we weren't able to meet to be able to facilitate some of these meetings. So again, I'd like to have a discussion. One of the things I'd like to bring up is the demand on staff time, as is commented on here. That's a really important thing, because I know we have tried in the past of having committee meetings, electing somebody as a minute taker, and it doesn't necessarily meet a certain standard that we need to have moving forward. So I think it's important that we have an idea of what that cost would be, and if we can do it on a contract basis as well.
So thank you. So just so I'm clear, you would want to have information brought back in terms of the cost to actually have a staff member or a contractor attend the committee meetings? Is that what you're asking?
Find out what that would be, as well as meeting schedule within the new facility, how it could be incorporated. You know, we were scheduling meetings purposely just to keep a spot open in our old ACO trailers, just to be able to facilitate. That won't be the case, because now we have several different meeting rooms that meetings can be facilitated, so we can actually schedule something. Maybe it is every other month or whatever, and it could also happen on a similar night as well. So I think there's a bunch of things that we need to look at for that. Councillor Trowbridge.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I'm done.
One of the things that we tried to do is to have the chair use a recorder and give sparse meeting notes, but then somebody had to sit and listen to that. So when you're calculating staff's use of time, make sure you include that so we have a realistic review, because if that's the methodology, I know for sure, and speaking with Carmen, yourself, and others that were doing it for our meetings, it's onerous. Sometimes the meetings are 2 hours, and they sit and listen to 2 hours worth of tape. And I, for one, am very inept at taking precise notes while chairing the meeting. I don't do a good job, so I just would urge us all to be realistic about it. So I'd like to hear that back from staff, and I would suggest, and I don't know if this is appropriate, but I would suggest that the recruitment process, if that's where we land, starts sooner than later, because that's a tough one. That's where we've got cross-pollination of the same member on 2 or 3 committees. Yeah. And if, as you say, Mayor McEwen, the pace picks up, some of those people will likely fall away. They can handle the pace now because there's not much there, but so I don't think it's a totally cut and dry.
Yeah, so through the chair, if I may, that was one of the reasons why the suggestion was made to increase the membership. I know all of you that have chaired committees in the past have had meetings that, you know, when you only have 4 committee members, two of them can show up and you still have a quorum with yourself as a member, but you don't really, have functional conversations or decision making with two people, and often you would have one person show up and then, you're packing up and going home. So that was, sort of the thought in increasing the membership.
Councillor Crowe.
Thank you. Further to Councillor Trowbridge's comment on the recording, I feel like it's a better use of time for someone to actually sit in the meeting and properly record it rather than take our notes. So I just wanted to expand upon that. But the point I wanted to make is that I don't disagree that we need to revisit the committees, but I don't know that this is the time, and I feel a little bit like we were going to, like, too much to maybe not enough, especially when a main portion of our strategic plan is to engage the community, and we're essentially, eliminating 3 committees and only adding 2 people to the other 2. I also see that once the Village Hub opens up, we're going to be very busy, and to expect to do a quarterly meeting is probably not realistic, especially for the CC committee. I see that being a little more active. I'd like to see, I see us needing some working groups to make some decisions about what things will look like at the hub. There are so many decisions that I don't think we even understand how many decisions we're going to have to make. But being mindful of the new requirement, if that doesn't go in, if that's the requirement is not to have that in place until December, it should give them September. But we certainly should be able to have some type of a meeting to put our thoughts down in such a way that will give you more to work with to make some decisions. I just think we need more information. This came as a little bit of a surprise to me. And so I think we definitely need more work on it. How that looks or when that work looks, knowing that we're going on break next month, after next month. But if we could just revisit it a little bit more, I think you'll get more clarity and it will serve the village better.
We can certainly bring some more information back to the next meeting, just taking into consideration that that is the last meeting before the summer break, and if there are any direction from council to update terms of references, particularly with the CC committee, or to update membership or anything with the other committees, that report would not come back to council until September, so that would be challenging for us to then recruit over the summer, because we wouldn't be able to do so without the direction.
Good. I've got 2 more about Councillor Weber and Councillor Richardson. I'll come back to you. Yeah, I was sort of hoping that staff could present this, and then if we want to make this decision to gather more information, that's fine. We come up with a different resolution. I guess the big question, are we putting you in a tough position by sending this off and asking for more information? It sounds like there's legislative requirements that you have to put a certain structured committee together. Through the chair.
Through the chair, certainly in terms of the meeting the accessibility requirements, we are on a bit of a deadline in terms of timeline for that. In terms of the other pieces, staff can certainly come back, on with those other items on cost, whether it be contractor or staff and time involved. We can certainly come back on that. But if council does want to, hear the presentation from staff, Ms. Schell could certainly provide a brief presentation if that's desired, or we could just move forward with a recommendation to bring it back to another meeting, just being cautious of the fact that that'll put us forward till September then.
It does say here that we have a year from in compliance with in effect September 1st, 2020, so we have a year, so that will be taking us up to 2023. And we could just add an accessibility committee to one of ours as well, so it can be an addition. So, okay, just a few more. Sorry. Okay, that was one question. Some of the same concerns were brought up. Would quarterly be enough? Agendas could be quite large if we combine committees, particularly when we've got some developments on the horizon. Who would chair this new committee? Would there just be one chair chosen, or would council be expected to come to all these committee meetings? Through the chair, is over.
So through the chair, in terms of chairing the committee, that could be set up through the terms of reference. There's a variety of ways. One chair could be appointed, it could be revolving. You know, there's a variety of options, and that's something that staff would be open to hearing feedback from on council. In terms of the quarterly meetings, currently the terms of reference for all of these committees say monthly or at the call of the chair. I have found in the time that I've been with the village, anyways, just over 4 years, that it's very infrequent that there has been monthly meetings. So the suggestion was just, and that was again to perhaps be a bit more attractive in terms of recruitment, that people don't think that they're going to be obligated to attend monthly meetings. The suggestion was to be quarterly or at the call of the chair. So certainly as items are unfolding, and such as Councillor Cryer mentioned the hub and any development, and the committees did meet more often or need to meet more often, that certainly could be accommodated under the terms of reference. We're just trying to be a little bit strategic on finding ways of recruiting new members that, you know, perhaps you know, it wasn't as much as of a commitment, because it looks like a monthly commitment right now, but it hasn't been in the past. So that was just our suggestion on that, but of course open to comments or feedback in order to develop those terms of reference.
Okay, I mean, I understand it, and a lot of it I like. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think for those reasons, you know, it's something we should consider. Maybe, yeah, if we need more information, as long as we've got the time, we're not putting staff in a bad place. I'm okay with deferring it.
Councillor Richardson.
Through the chair, I was really intrigued with the Accessibility BC Act and Accessibility Committee. When I read the requirements, it says at least half of the committee must be disabled people. So you have a 7-person committee, that means you need 4, plus an Indigenous person, and you know, some other little things in there. I don't see how you're going to get that in Anmore. So what happens if you don't make the act?
So through the chair, there's been a lot of discussions amongst those of us that are required to either form a dedicated committee or incorporate into an existing committee. So the structure of the act does not require us to actually have this embedded in a legislative council committee. We just saw that that was the best route for the village. Those discussions have included the fact that small municipalities and other organizations like us will likely not be able to meet those requirements. We will, however, in our recruitment, you know, clearly state our desire to have those groups that are not currently represented apply for and be part of our committees, understanding that it is likely that we won't be able to fulfill those requirements within Anmore, but we certainly will make an effort to do that. And you know, I don't think we will be penalized in any way for not meeting requirements that we don't have the applicants for, but you know, we certainly will make an attempt to have a more diverse group.
It does actually say that just to make sure that there is reflects the diversity of persons in British Columbia as well. Is one of the things. So it isn't a very set in stone thing. So.
I just have one last comment that's more of a joke, which is the committee of one is really easy to make decisions.
Dr. George.
I'm going to say through the chair because everyone else is. I don't have any idea what that means, but first of all, I don't want to leave the impression with staff that I'm in staunch opposition to a change. I think we do need to revamp things. I think, and I'm with Councillor Weber, if we're not putting you guys between a rock and a hard place, then I think a little more massaging is in order. For example, the quarterly plus call of the chair makes sense to me. The Parks Committee, I can't foresee, even though we're going to get more active now that things are changing and COVID's over, I don't see a monthly meeting being relevant. We'd be having a meeting for the sake of a schedule, and it's pointless. And I like the idea that it's less onerous on a volunteer to say, hey, I need to make 4 meetings a year. That's not so bad. And if the chair calls an extra meeting and we have quorum and miss a couple members, no problem. So there's a lot I like about it. I just didn't want to give you a negative impression.
No, certainly through the chair. I mean, this is part of the reason we brought this forward, because staff recognizes that what we've been doing the past few years isn't working, and likely for a variety of reasons, including COVID and other reasons. So certainly, you know, this is a starting point for a conversation, and if council feels that more discussion is warranted, then staff is certainly happy to bring back any more information or, you know, provide anything that'll help inform that discussion, because I think certainly we can improve, and it's just how and the mechanism to make those improvements. So we're happy for the feedback and you know, want to make it right.
Perfect. Good. I don't see an alternate recommendation here.
So the recommendation, if you don't want to move ahead with anything at this time, the recommendation could be that staff report back on the cost of staff member or contractor to attend committee meetings, take minutes, and provide a meeting schedule at the new village hub. Is there anything further that?
Yeah, that'll give us enough.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Could I get someone to move that then? Move, second. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll now move on to the Anmore fees and charges bylaw amendment. Ms. Martin, back to you.
Thank you. As part of our continuous review of the village bylaws, where required updates have been identified for the Anmore fees and charges bylaw. This aligns with current costs for water meters. As we were doing a water meter replacement, we noticed we had not updated those values in many years. So this just reflects the current cost of the inventory. So we have a recommendation that council grant first, second, and third readings to the Anmore fees and charges bylaw amendment bylaw 683/2023.
And these are just direct inflationary costs.
That is correct.
Yeah.
It's been many years since we
Yeah.
changed the water meters.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded, and open up for discussion. Councilor Richardson?
I was second.
Oh, okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We now go to the BC Growing Communities Grant Funding. Ms. Elmer.
Thank you. So at a previous committee of the whole meeting and at the last council meeting, council provided direction on projects that they wanted staff to get some information and report back on potential budgets from the BC Growing Communities Fund that was received by the village for the amount of $1.73 million. So the recommendation this evening outlines the items in the report, so I can go through the recommendation, and then if council has questions, Mr. Donaldson, Mr. Voigt, and Ms. Martin and Michelle are here to answer any questions related to it, or we can go through it one by one, whatever council's desire is.
I'm just wondering, F will avail us an opportunity to talk about the village hub.
They both E and F will.
Okay,
So
I will save my commentary until I get to F then, because this was sort of a direct relation of the committee of the whole meeting. So,
sure.
can you do the recommendation?
Sure. So I will add too that one of the items that was recommended by council to have some funds applied to was wildfire protection, and when looking into budget and things that we could do to achieve that goal, Ms. Shell did identify a grant stream that staff recommends that we apply to the grant stream to update our wildfire protection plan, which would be approximately $35,000, and try to get that money from that UBCM grant stream and then free up the money that's within ours. So then the recommendations would include for the 4 other items, and I will also note that there is $1.73 million available. These recommendations 1 through 4 add up to $1.58 million. So there still is $150,000 not allocated should council choose to move forward with the recommendations this evening, and they can be allocated through some other way or held off to another meeting as well.
Okay.
So the recommendation would be that staff be directed to initiate the following projects to be funded from the BC Growing Communities Fund. 1, public works yard improvements for equipment and vehicles up to $1 million. 2, enhancements to Anmore Community Hub and surrounding area up to $200,000. 3, Ravenswood Drive realignment and tree management of area up to $330,000. And 4, water system service planning up to $50,000.
Can I get someone to move that? Move, second, open up for discussion. Councilor Richardson.
So when I went through this, I'll just say that I'm an engineer. I tend to like planning and sort of longer term planning. So for the $1 million for Public Works Yard, I would much prefer to say $50,000 now to figure out what it's going to look like next year and 5 years down the road. Trailers removed, things are shuffled, I need a roof over the trailers, other things are moving around. So if there's $1 million to build a building, maybe it's some office space, all the equipment storage for the right room or mechanics, and you get rid of the trailers completely. And I think a longer term plan makes sense to me rather than just allocating $1 million for a business or for a building. So that's my thought on that one. And then with respect to the community hub, where is the risk register right now? Because the things that are mentioned to be paid through this grant are also included if the risk register is not used. And then my last comment is I read the grant thing again, and it doesn't have to be spent right away. It could be put in a fund and sit there for a couple of years if we so desire to find the thing that we actually want to do. So those are my comments / questions.
Chris, do you want to just report?
Yeah, okay. So you have Councillor Richardson's first comment about the planning piece for the public works yard. Yes, that would be something that we'd be doing through this $1 million is to review the works yard, the operation. We've done some very high level review at this point in time. We would definitely be doing some more planning and design through this, and right now this funding would just be towards, if the planning goes correctly, towards just a shed towards it. But in reality, there's more planning to be done in the public works yard and in relation to a fire hall as well, and what that might look like. So I think there's more planning down the road for this. I think this is, the staff see it as the allocation of some of these funds to go forward with. And, we might come back with another report later on to ask for more or need less of this $1 million, depending on where the planning phase comes through at this point in time. Because I'm agreeing with you, there definitely needs to be some more planning and organisation on how this looks, like you said, in the next 1, 3, 5 years' time, for sure. And then for regards to risk register, don't quote me on the exact number right now. I would say, as of right now, we've used about 100,000 of that risk register as of this point in time. Some of those overruns have been a little bit on civil. There's been some other items such as millwork is way more expensive than we're expecting, so that's kind of gone in there and what have you. So the funding for the 200,000 that's been asked for here is nothing to do on the risk register, because the risk register items I'm talking as if people even knows what the risk register is and how the contract works. But the risk register items are only on items which are already included within the structure that have been asked for as part of the design process. These items here would not be part of the risk register or any association with it, because these would be known as be deferred as additional scope items, so they wouldn't be associated with the risk register. So, and I suppose just for the public's knowledge, this isn't an ask for a slush fund. This is above what is included in the scope at this point in time.
And then the last one, what was the last question?
That was the risk register.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else, any other comments? No? Nothing? I've got a few. Regarding the building, we as a council pretty clearly identified that we need to do something about storing our vehicles in the winter, as what happened last year. We had trucks breaking down, so we know that that's an essential thing. It needs to be addressed as soon as possible. We just sent a letter off to Belcare regarding a fire hall, which needs to get implemented as soon as possible. So that building needs to be coming. part of our long-term planning, even when we moved those trailers, and I think it was about $30,000, is because we own those. And we're just moving them down. It was always their initial intent that they would become part of the Public Works offices and their field things, so with washings and that, and that's why we put them there. We fix the septic and that. So coverage for them is not that big of a deal in regards to make them even more long-standing. So regarding the building, I think it's an essential thing, but I do agree that, you know, now that the money is allocated, the planning has to go on, because I think that one of the things that, speaking with Jay Sharp, is we need to be able to maneuver the ladder truck, because it's going to have to be stayed undercover, heated throughout the winter so that it's ready to go. We need to make sure there's possibilities. So we'll have to do a bit of reallocation there, as well as setting it for the brine. So I'm certainly supportive of this, and seeing no further comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you, and then I do have the additional recommendation regarding the grant, if we can
Oh,
have
okay,
that.
sure.
So the recommendation, this is regarding wildfire protection, would be that staff be directed to submit a grant application to the UBCM Community Resiliency Investment Program 2023 Fire Smart Community Funding and Support Stream to develop a current and acceptable wildfire protection plan, and that the village provide overall grant management should this application be successful.
So to move that grant application, move seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, yes, that'd be great. I know that they're actually, from what I've heard, actually going to be increasing that fund as well, so we should be in good stand. We'll now move over to item number F. 9F, Local Government Climate Action Program and Canada Community Building Fund allocation. Ms. Howard?
Thank you. So staff has identified two different funding streams that we currently have available for council's consideration on whether they would like to allocate any of that funds to an electric vehicle charging station and surrounding infrastructure at the hub. So the first grant is the Climate Action Grant. We have $118,164 available from that grant stream. The second one is the Canada Community Building Fund grant. There is $260,766 in that fund available. Now, I would like to note that that money needs to be spent, that 260 and change does need to be spent by March 2024. So this is, you know, an introduction of something that staff sees that council may wish to identify to apply those funds to. And as we're at the stage in construction with the hub, that it would be much more cost effective to provide that service during this phase than in the future. We thought that it would be timely to bring that up at this time. So if there are any questions regarding what types of projects can be allocated to which grant funding source, Ms. Martin is also available to answer any of those questions. And related to the EV charging station and hub construction, Mr. Boyd can answer any questions, but I could bring forward the recommendation if council wishes, or if you want to have some discussion about the amounts before, because I can't plug the amount in without.
Yeah, before we put an amount forward, I just wanted to make some general comments. Yesterday, I had the it was an unscheduled opportunity to walk through the village hub for the first time. I'd never been inside there, even at any point. So it gave me my first opportunity. And I just want to, first of all, give an incredible amount of accolades to the building committee, which Councillor Tolbert is a member on, Chris Boyd, Karen Elbrook, and then, of course, some members from the Jacob Brothers. And they have been working, I don't think any of us, I certainly didn't realize the amount of work that's been going on behind the scenes to ensure that we were coming in on budget on this project. And in today's environment, that is completely unheard of. And yet they are there. And they are going to be, you know, full straight ahead. But with that, they've had to make some compromises. And walking through yesterday, you know, the mechanical is just about to be starting to be done. The walls were put up, metal walls, but just sort of tacked in place. So it gave an idea of functionality of the building. And a couple things jumped out at me. First of all, when we set the budget of $8 million, we were not aware at that point in time that we were going to be fortunate enough, even through all our lobbying, to receive $2.5 million from the provincial government. And we did, and we've continued to receive funding from the revitalization of Spirit Park, which we're going to incorporate some other aspects to the hub in regards to landscaping. What jumped out to me dramatically yesterday, and what I'm hoping we can do is that we need to, I'm hoping council will have time next week that we can have an impromptu walkthrough and see what I saw and have a discussion. Because right now, it's very easy to make some minor changes that may make sense. I'll give you an example on a couple of those changes. One of the changes is we've roughed in for a possible great room divider. It's going to be great. It's going to cost extra money. That wasn't in the budget. It'd be great to get council in there to see it. The EV charging has just been brought up right now. You know, we know at some point down the future. That wasn't in the initial budget. We also know that we wanted to rough in the possibility for a server, a possible coffee shop down below. Well, that now is so much changed. It can be fixed, or it can be altered a little bit, but it doesn't expose it, have an opening with windows in regards to the parking lot, which people then, if they were driving by, could see, and an open sign could be on there as well. So these are some pretty, I'm not going to say insignificant changes, but changes that could be made right now that wouldn't impact the schedule substantially. May delay a month, but it wouldn't be good. We're already sort of on schedule for the end of September. So I'd really like to get council to do a walkthrough and we could talk about these things. It's tough for me to show you. I'll show you one thing though. On page of the agenda, on page 20, it says 68 of 23, which is in, it says the new Anmore community hub. It's in our, is it the, not the strategic plan, it's in the tour. This one? Yeah.
What's your number?
68 or 20, is it 23? Yeah. I don't know if you can see it in the audience. Do you have an agenda? Okay. Anyway, you look at the side of the building there and you see the glazing that's up top there. The group that was managing the budget and doing such an incredible job, we've lost a portion of that walkway outside of the upper glass, where the glazing is. That's gone because in a thing to save money. What's also gone is in behind there, half of that glass wall is no longer a glass wall in regards to saving funds to be there. When I was up there yesterday, to me, it really took away from what we always had sort of planned, which was the opening up onto Spirit Park. Being able to have parents in there on maybe a snowy night at a Christmas thing, and being able to look out at their kids and those sorts of things. So I'd certainly like it if possible, if council, we could do a walkthrough. I've talked to Chris a little bit about it, and that we could, if we were to come to a decision, we could make any sort of minor decisions on our meeting on July 18th, and he's going to come back to us with what some of the numbers could be. But, you know, again, my hat's off to this committee. I can't believe he did what we were able to do. I really can't, and keep it in with budget. But I do think that there's an opportunity that we could add some more money into it. Certainly it will go over what the initial budget is, but I'm convinced that the finished product will speak for it in spades down the road. So, you know, is that something that council would be interested in?
I need a walkthrough, sure.
Okay. Is everybody around town that we could schedule? I know you're going to be out of town.
Plan it and I'll hope for the best.
Okay. Okay.
Very good.
I have a couple of meetings.
Okay. Okay. So with that being said, I don't really want to, if we can, just defer this right now, and then we'll go through the walkthrough. A couple things that jumped out at me, and you know what? There may be other things other people pick up as well. You know, that we could maybe adjust and have some idea. You know, to me, to add
$100,000 or $200,000 to this budget right now to be able to get some of the, you know, like a divider put in right away and that, I think is money well spent at this point, especially in today's climate. We are so close to having such, you know, the building is amazing. I was absolutely overwhelmed in regards to the work and where it's at. I think you'll be blown away when you walk through it, but I do think there's a few areas that we could just tweak with maybe putting back some of the glazing that we've lost and that. So with that, Ms. Elliott, how do we move forward in regards to that?
Certainly, I could suggest a recommendation that council defer allocation of funding from the local government climate action program and Canada Community Building Fund to a future council meeting following a site visit of the Anmore Community Hub with all of members of council.
If we could maybe put for our July 18th meeting.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we'd have to make, if any decisions were
Yes.
being made, it would have to be made then. So,
Absolutely.
so it would have to, everything will have to come back.
Mr. Boyd may have something to add in terms of timeline on decision making as well.
Yeah, I'll be frank as I always am. It could be a little problematic to wait to make the decision until then, because we're at a point right now where we're just putting the wrap on the building. We're kind of moving towards putting the facade around the building as well. So it isn't impossible. We will probably just incur another mobilization cost from having to if we want to install that additional glazing around the front, because right now it's already wrapped. We're prepped to go on. We'd have to do a bunch of different finishing and come back again. It's just some of those things.
Can I ask procedurally that if we have a walkthrough early next week and there is some decision of council, could I call a special council meeting and we could expedite the process and we could even do that electronically?
Yeah, certainly. I was going to suggest that that would be more appropriate action. We can call a special council meeting with 24 hours notice, or a council meeting maybe called sooner with all members of council agreeing to waive that notice requirement, and we can hold that meeting electronically.
Councillor Childers.
I strongly recommend that's what we do, because this schedule is mission critical, and Mr. Boyd in particular has had his time in the ice for the last few months trying to keep production moving along, and we've had some issues with things like you mentioned, the glazing. That was originally a glass curtain wall, and that was a $500,000 curtain wall that you see in that picture. So we've gone to framing and mullions and brought that cost down probably a couple hundred grand, maybe 300 in terms of the reduction. So speed is of the essence, because the window you're talking about, and I don't disagree with it, has to be made, and it has to be ordered, and the wall has to be taken out, and the cladding taken off, and all of that. It's not that the extra couple of weeks is a problem, it's what it doesn't allow the contractor to do that could back up months and months.
If I could add to that as well, one of the things that people always forget about is that the extension of the schedule has a really large impact in what we call the cost, the bonding and the insurance premiums. That every day that ticks on, there's a cost associated with that. So the window might only take 2 days to install, but it could extend the schedule by, say, a month. So there's significant cost. That you might see the cost of the window. Why does that window cost $100,000? But in reality, it only costs $10,000. It's because of the extension of the schedule could inflate the cost.
I understand comment on that from Todd Jacobs. They're claiming over $3,500 a day for insurance and bonding. So you're talking about $100 grand a month for every device. So we need to. I think it's the right thing to do, but I think we need to do whatever keeps us inside the rules that expedites it quickly.
So I can suggest once we have the site meeting scheduled, that we could also schedule a council meeting following, knowing that there'll at least be some discussion to be had. And if I may suggest that the motion then be changed back to that council defer to a future meeting following the site visit to the Anmore Community Hub, and then that leaves us flexible in the date.
Good. Can I get someone to move that? Second, open up for discussion.
I don't quite know which motion we're discussing now. I'm sort of back to the EV, because this has changed from discussion on EV station to changing the hub. So EV is no longer a discussion point at all.
So the motion on the floor, Councilor Richardson, is to defer this item until after the site visit.
Okay. But while you're here, I would be interested to know what the plan is for EV station, such as, are we gonna run a business charging cars? How many people are coming? What's the expectation? Is it a free service Anmore is offering? You know, because I don't think the local government should be in a professional service business. That's an underwriting rule.
It's not a business, it's just to facilitate employees.
So through the chair, there are several different options that can be considered, whether it's a paid service or it's a service that's provided at no charge. Other municipalities manage it in many different ways. Fees that are charged, though, come with the cost of, it's not really a revenue source because that comes with the cost of setup and other items, and that's something certainly that can be looked into in the future.
Yeah, most municipalities have this now, and it's certainly the way of the future, the way it used to go. So I remember Tesla, we wanted to set one up in our parking lot there, but it was going to be over $15,000 when we passed on to that point because we didn't have the electric. So.
Even if it is a charge per use basis, that doesn't have to be considered a business or a revenue stream. That could be a cost recovery because it's going to cost us to pay the electrical in order to energize that charge unit. I think I'd have a hard time telling constituents that don't have EVs or use it that they are all paying for someone to come and use an EV. So it bears further discussion.
Any other questions? See none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Deferral? In favor of deferral? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, we can move on to new business. Village of Anmore 2022 water quality report. Ms. Carr.
Thank you. So every year, the village presents the water quality report for the previous year. This is attached to the agenda, and the recommendation this evening will be the Village of Anmore 2022 annual water quality report. Be received for information, and Mr. Donaldson is here this evening in case council has any questions about the report.
Do you have any recommendation to receive?
The recommendation is that the Village of Anmore 2022 annual water quality report, as attached to the agenda, be received for information.
Someone to move that to the water quality report? Move second, and now we'll put this discussion. Councilor Corbett?
Seconding our meeting.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Great work, Mr. Johnson. That report's look amazing.
Just one question.
Has the new truck arrived? The new truck arrived?
No, it's scheduled the end of August or early September last year.
Okay, now we'll move on to 11B, Monterey Day, verbal update from council.
We were a little bit behind in regards to some of the site work on Spirit Park. The septic system is going to be getting redone, and that will probably be occurring August-ish.
Yeah.
So that means that we're not going to have a park to be able to host Monterey Day. And my thought is maybe we postpone it this year and incorporate it in with the village hall opening, which will be probably a month later. That's going to be a good end.
Like that.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. It'll be in the rain and then you will talk.
Honestly, I like that idea. Sorry. I like that idea. The septic field is moving. It's very exciting because the wet, boggy field that we felt every year will be dried up and graded properly.
Yeah, on that note, so there will be significant work happening within Spirit Park, not just the septic system, but as part of the grant funding that we had for enhancement of Spirit Park will be occurring at the same time, so there will be a lot of work happening in and around the hub. I don't know if we'll get all the exterior upgrades completed at the same time as when the hall opens. We may end up kind of doing the demarcation line of all the kind of walls and stuff and get the hardscape in and around the hall being completed, and we'll wait to do the softscape maybe the following year. Maybe depends on where we get to here, but I just wanted to throw that out. We're trying to get Spirit Park completed at the same time as the hall, but we'll have to be coordinating plans. Yeah.
Nonetheless, it's not going to be a serviceable area for us.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the point.
Yeah. However, we kind of have the community hall inside will be ready, and we can do the lawnmower races inside.
That's the name of my voice. That's scary.
I think we've got the liability.
Any other
Could be
comments
short, right?
regarding the planning already there, or incorporated with that? Okay, so I don't think there's a resolution, but the direction of staff.
Certainly, if council wants to direct staff to postpone Monterey Day and incorporate the event into the Village Hub grand opening.
And I guess we should put us in notifications for people as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have all the mayor's report. June 10th, I attended the council actually hosted part of the council's in Langley, at the Langley Event Center. On the 11th, I attended Bill Care Day, and the fire department was down there. It was really, the weather was amazing, and it was great to see some of the neighboring community of Bill Care. Saw Rob Drew, and that was great to see him. The 13th is at the Board of Trade for Metro Vancouver. And then on the 16th, which was a week before Friday, we had a regional gathering with all the chiefs and councillors from all 10 First Nations within the region at the Twassen Lawn. We had breakfast and lunch, and it was a really a great event, and everybody was talking, and there were smaller groups, we were stuck in smaller groups, and it's really good just being able to get a better understanding. On the 17th, which was Saturday, I was up at the Heritage School graduation at SFU, where it was absolutely freezing out there. It was glad I had my winter jacket on. So being up on stage, it's just the wind just goes through there. It was crazy. As I said yesterday, I got off to tour through the hub, which Karen's tomorrow. We'll get some time so that we can get that done. And then earlier today, I had an opportunity to meet with newly elected Chief Ron Giesberg from the Coquitlam Band. We had a great meeting, and we talked a lot about it. So to say hello to fellow Councillor Cryer. And then I attended the Anmore graduation ceremony here this afternoon, which was really the pack put on an incredible display. It was looked better than my graduation, my grade 12 graduation many years ago. So it certainly is getting legs. And then, so this July 1st at 9 o'clock, we're going to do a naming ceremony down at the Coquitlam Band for Colony Farms to change the name. It's an Indigenous thing. I don't have the exact pronunciation of it, but it's really a big event. We're really looking forward to similar to that of the County Youth from Belcare Regional Park. And then I'll be going over to Canada. We have been invited to Coquitlam, Port Moody, and Poco to attend our events. I think that's open to most of the council as well. The weather looks like it's going to be spectacular, so everybody get out and celebrate Canada. That's it. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor McHugh. I've had a lot going on and not a lot of redundancy in what you've been doing. I've had a couple of mental health task force meetings. You can see the minutes of those in the packet. I was a guest of the CEO of Coast Mental Health. Each year they do the Courage to Come Back Awards. They haven't done it for 2 years because of the pandemic. So I was a guest request of Keir McDonald and my fellow councillor at the Port Moody table, Samantha Agdra, was also in attendance, so we carpooled. We had a great visit on the way to and from downtown. There were 1,700 people there, but it was lovely, very, very well done, and nice to be in a room with so many people. It was a little people-y and overwhelming, but it was very, very nice. I too was at the Metro Vancouver Council of Councils. It's always a good high-level review. The first Council of Councils that we have in a new term. So that was good to see everyone. I'm continuing to support the peer-assisted community task group, which is a mental health initiative to take RCMP 911 out of 911 calls that do not need a police response. So there's a lot of activity. We will be putting in a regional application with all 5 communities, so that will be coming forward, and I will be taking the lead on that for the village of Anmore along with the homelessness task group. So lots of meetings about that. I had my first Metro Vancouver committee meeting. I am on the regional culture committee, and we had our first meeting, and I was then sent to my home a little bit of reading, 1,500 pages to have completed for, we're giving out $300,000 worth of grants, and staff has vetted all of the applications and left me with 1,500 pages to read to determine where those funds will go at our next meeting, which is in 3 weeks. And we'll be attending the Chamber of Commerce Golf Tournament dinner on Thursday, and that's it. Maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, just a short report. June 1st, I attended the volunteer fire department, National Volunteer Fire Department meeting. Unfortunately, I missed the last council meeting. I've been dealing with the ongoing illness that I'm not sure how it's going to continue for us, so my apologies for not being able to attend the meeting. I also attended a zero waste meeting on June 15th. National meetings, very professionally run. It's weird being part of a bigger organization. We're a small village, and we look at, oh crap, that's what millions and millions of dollars last year. I'd also like to say goodbye to the Weinbergs. I understand the Weinbergs sold their house, and they're going to be moving on from this village after 52 years. Hal Weinberg, as we all know, along with Bob Hunter back in the day, came up with the Anmore concept and created the village we know today. I used to talk to Hal about everything over years ago before COVID and Linda, and we talked about Anmore and where it was and where it's going. Hal was always very aware that that's not the village I created, it's different, it changes all the time, but that's the way things go. But one thing it's always been is a lovely, wonderful place to live. Respectful of nature. And I was thinking about it, it was ironic because Bob Hunter was one of the founders of Greenpeace. And, Vancouver was, in the day, was the epicenter of the green movement. So now here we are, 50 years later, faced with climate change and all the things that we were doing back then, we have to do differently today. Large rural properties, large homes that we have up here are not really respectful of that. We have to look at different ways to develop. So I think it's an interesting crossroads that we're at. And I think Anmore will continue to be a wonderful place to live, open to everybody, inclusive, as it was 50 years ago, but it's going to look different. And I think to be respectful of the challenges that are before us, which are world challenges, it needs to go that way. So I want to thank Hal particularly for creating this village and putting in the time and the sweat and the pain, as we all are aware of sometimes. And I think his legacy will live on in the fact that for the next 50 years, this is going to be the place to live. And that's it. Thanks, Councillor Richardson.
So I also went to the Council of Councils, which was fascinating to me. Huge group, lots of people knew each other, lots of different ideas. ideas. But being an engineer, as I mentioned earlier, I'm always struck how much better the Lower Mainland would be with an overriding organization. Water, sewer, roads, waste, etc. If everybody was doing their own, this place would be a mess. So when I listen to the Metro Vancouver speakers and the committee members and the staff speak, I'm struck that you really have to give credit and due to the planning that goes into such an organization. And I struggle with even their greenhouse gas emission reductions, etc., the plans that are coming up here versus sort of the desire of Metro Vancouver, which is development and density on transit corridors. That's how they want to keep the greenhouse reduction down. It's how they can keep things cost effective. And they absolutely do not want to expand the urban containment boundary. That's what I got from the meeting. And so I always try to struggle, how does that align with what Anmore is doing? So I think it's worthwhile to have some thoughts on that. It was very interesting. That's all.
Okay, Chief Administrator's report.
Thank you. So just a reminder to everybody that property taxes are due on Tuesday, July 4th, so 1 week from today. And the Village Hall will be closed on Monday, July 3rd, recognizing Canada Day. So there are many options available for payment, which are all available on the website, or please contact Village Hall if you need any assistance on payment options. Also, just want to remind everybody that despite some areas of the province that are now allowing campfires, we still have a campfire and general fire ban here in Anmore under the direction of Chief Sharp, and we will update the community should that change in the future, but for now we still are under campfire ban. And lastly, we do have, as we alluded to earlier, one more meeting scheduled here on July 18th, which is 3 weeks from now, so we're a little bit off schedule from our regular schedule due to a change in this meeting, and that will be our last meeting before council breaks for summer. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on. We've, as Councillor Crowder already mentioned, the minutes of the Tri-Cities Healthier Communities are included in the agenda. See some general correspondence from the City of Richmond, North Saanich, and then the Metro Vancouver Board and Brief. So I'll open up for a public question period.
Working? Is it working?
Nope. The blue light one?
Yes, it is working? Okay. So Nancy Maloney, 1724 East Road, and as usual I have several questions. And question number one is, why are residents or visitors such as Icona staff no longer identified by name in the minutes? It just says generically resident. Always in the past, persons have been named who are asking questions or giving a statement.
Yeah, well, it's required to have the names mentioned when you're asking questions as part of our procedure bylaw. It's not required as part of the official record to be included in the minutes.
Would it be preferable to go back to what we have always done and actually name people? And I would also prefer that the comments be expanded a little bit, like it's very condensed without really adequate detail for what the person has said. And now you don't even know who the person is. That's my question.
It's already been answered.
Sorry?
It's been answered. They've already done it. Ms. Snell's already answered it.
Oh, well, the answer was it's not required, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done. If council directed staff to include the names as has always been done, you have 4 questions. Oh, Polly is shaking her head yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just also like to mention that there are privacy considerations that we are thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's something that I personally disagree with, and in terms of privacy, people can request to remain anonymous. I'm not sure of the rationale, for why people are required to become anonymous
That's fine.
in our public record.
What was your second question?
Okay, I'm certainly not wanting to unnecessarily waste paper, but for residents who attend the meetings, which several of us do on a regular basis, could we request a print copy of the agenda package? And especially if you're planning to be here, so that would eliminate waste. I know often there's many packages left over, and other times there aren't packages available for everyone, but that would treat residents respectfully. I know our UNA staff who are here have packages for today's meeting, but for other residents, there were not packages. So it makes it very difficult to follow agenda items without any documentation.
Hopefully in the future we'll have a screen up behind us that'll have the agenda posted like they do in Port Moody and that. So, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I can add to that, that we do have our agendas available once it's published on the website at Village Hall. There are copies available. If we run out of copies, we can run more copies off. Additionally, Ms. Shell has just introduced something new this evening that we will be using moving forward, that our Brooke Hovey, our communications gal, is creating a QR code for each meeting, so most people have access to cell phones these days. So if we run out of agendas, there is a QR code there, and that QR code will send you right to the agenda, and you could view it on your phone or device in the meeting.
I still would request that hard copies be in some respects available either by request for people for whom that is not a possibility.
She just said they will be available at the Village Hall.
Paul, but so don't count on getting an agenda here. You have to go to the public.
There were some extra copies made. This was quite a large agenda, and we had some picked up at Village Hall, and we did have extra copies available, but they were all used this evening. And in the interest of not running off another 300 pages,
I am
we just didn't
sympathetic to
have
that.
extra ones yet.
Okay. What else here? Oh, actually, through the chair, as per usual, I could be wrong on this. I did go over the agenda package, but some number of days ago, and given the number of, I assume that I would be able to pick up a copy here, and obviously was incorrect on that. But in terms of representation from the disability community, in terms of that element of the provincial requirement, somehow my vague memory is that it indicates that that percent of membership could be either persons who are disabled themselves or caregivers of disabled persons. I'm correct on that, Doug? So it wasn't that, that number was limited strictly to an individual who's disabled. It also included other support people or family members of a disabled person. So I wanted to point that out. And, what else here? Also through the chair, I wanted to thank Councillor Paul for honoring the Weinberg family. Much appreciated. And I wondered if a committee should be struck to plan for some recognition for the Weinbergs prior to their departure from Anmore, or something that could be done later, but at least to make some significant recognition. And my personal idea is the naming of a street for the Weinbergs. Such, I don't know for sure where this would be, but such as Weinberg Way, we have Monterey Lane. I think that would be very suitable memorial for the Weinbergs' contribution. So if a committee could be struck, I would actually like to participate in this committee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public questions?
Peter Godupton, 1815 A East Road. I'm trying to phrase this into a question. It's impromptu. I wonder if anyone else has problems with QR codes, as do I. I can't seem to get my cell phone to do them properly. And I'm also would like to comment with respect to Bunsen Lake and BC Hydro. Apparently, if you don't have data on your phone, you can't get a pass to go into Bunsen Lake. So I really would like to caution council and the village not to go too high end on all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more questions, I'll, motion to adjourn. Second, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.